So this is our agenda. And with Issam, if you agree on that, Issam, we can try both you and me. What we need together. What are your demands on the different topics, capacity building or other issues? What do we want us to share between the labs, and where is what is needed? I think this is the important point that we can come up to at the end. Just one slide to recall you where we are in work package 4. So we are still in the first task with the guidelines that I need to send you. I'm really late, but they will come. The second task 4.2, pilot water laboratories, is supposed to start now from months 12 to 44, which is really the implementation of the methodology that is suggested in work package 4. As I already say, in our last meetings, what we saw and what we discussed is a demand for capacity building on serious game and on the participation issue. So we can keep this in mind and see if we want to elaborate a project on that. For instance, we could imagine having 1 or 2 day class on these themes next back to the General Assembly. Yeah, and after is a follow-up with work package 4, but we don't need to go in these details now. So this is just a reminder on what we suggest to share during the roundtable. Maybe just a first question to all of you. So Hadi, go ahead. You have one.
Yes, I was just going to ask if we can move the Lebanese presentation up a little bit after getting permission from the Egyptian, French, and the Italian lab. I just have a meeting at 11, which is voting on degrees for the University Senate. So my group will be here for the rest of the meeting, but I'll have to drop out for a bit. So if that's okay with the other members, that would be appreciated. If not, we can keep it as scheduled. Yeah.
For me, no problem. You could start with the Lebanese lab. Do you all agree?
Yes, why not? Yeah.
Please go on.
Thank you, Abada, Paulo. Thank you.
Oops. Okay, so I will. Oops. Sorry. What did I do? Oh. So if you, yeah, just the first question was that do you all have a presentation, or otherwise you tell me to put the small notes on the.
Yes,
if you have
the
a
Spanish lab has it.
Okay.
Also the Italian.
Okay.
Nina, could you please record the meeting?
Oh yes,
if
sorry.
If it's possible. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, sorry, I always forgot it. Thank you. Hadi, if you want, the floor is yours.
Okay. Is the presentation visible?
Yes.
Perfect.
Great. All right, so we'll start. So as you know, we have deliverables and workshops. Deliverable 5.2, which is the data management plan, was delivered on November 30, 2021. And this is month 6 of the project, and it's completed. I think it's also here in the presentation. We have the WP4 workshop, and this was held in January 7, 2022. This was not a part of the deliverable, but many partners asked us if we can do a workshop on water accounting. just to go, as an overview over how we can use remote sensing in water accounting and using the WP4 data, which is the FAO evapotranspiration and biomass data. Unfortunately, this data is only available for Africa and not for Europe, Africa and part of Asia. But we also showed in the project, in the workshop, how we can use the HSAB model or any other evapotranspiration data in the water accounting tool. And we have deliverable 2.2, which was also delivered in last week in May 31. And this had the water accounting database metadata. So we thank all the partners who have submitted the information and the material required to complete those deliverables. We will be holding a local workshop in Lebanon for the stakeholders, and this workshop is projected to happen in mid of July. The objective of the workshop is to engage more the local stakeholders in Lebanon, mainly the Litani River Authority, the water establishments, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Water, and introduce to them what we are doing here at the Talanoa. And the objective is also to initiate a dialogue on water scarcity and climate action in Lebanon, using the water productivity tools and the water accounting tools that we are working on, and also integrating the socioeconomic modeling with the help of results on the model provided from the Spanish lab. Francesco is here. And here what we did is that we took the water productivity, evapotranspiration data, and the yield data for several crops in the Bekaa Valley. And we also run a socioeconomic analysis on them to see what the variation in the pricing of water, how would that impact the water allocations, and how can that advise the policy for future suggestions on how to improve water productivity in the Bekaa Valley. So at the workshop, we will be presenting this data to the stakeholders and to the partners, and we will be seeking their input, and we will be initiating the discussion on water policies in Lebanon. And I think this would be a good opportunity for us to start this climate dialogue from a perspective wider than just the academic and the research perspective. So as I mentioned, the workshop will be held at the Department of Agriculture here at Faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences. You are all invited to attend if you can. That would be great. July is a hot month in Beirut, but you can also visit the mountains where it's much cooler there. And it's planned to be like only a half-a-day workshop in which we start this discussion and engagement with the stakeholders on Talanoa. Of course, we keep record of the workshop meetings, and we hope to share it with the group here at large. So for the workshop agenda, we have a tentative agenda in which we have, of course, the registration, then welcome from the department. Then we have to keep some time for the Litani River Authority, who's the project rapporteur, to talk about their work. And then we will be introducing our water accounting results and the results of the socioeconomic modeling. I'm not sure if Francesco can join. I know Dione is on vacation in July, but you're welcome to join via Zoom, Francesco. This is a tentative here to talk about the socioeconomic model briefly, just from a layman perspective, and to introduce how we can use economic modeling in water allocations. This is up for discussion between us, me and you, Francesco. And then we will be introducing the water accounting and the economics of water productivity. Here, Roya should be also added, Reem, and then we will be open the floor for discussions and dialogue. If you have any comments or suggestions, please let us know. And I'm not going to go over this in detail just for the sake of time, but this is how we plan for the workshop. We send invitation letters to stakeholders, prepare the material, and then introduce the platform, etc., and then set the way forward for the discussions. These are the suggested list of invitees. So we have public sector, we have also the authorities, the establishments, we invite also farmers, NGOs, municipalities, and also the private sector. And during the workshop, of course, we will discuss, as I mentioned, the socioeconomic modeling here. I'm just briefing the dear partners on this panel on what we are doing with the Spanish lab, where we are integrating the biophysical data, evapotranspiration biomass, with the socioeconomic data. And we're applying this over 2 case studies, one in the Bekaa Valley and another one over the Sega catchment in Spain. I know Spain this year had a kind of a drought. Is that true, Francesco? With the exception of some late rain and snow actually in March, you had a fairly dry winter, correct?
Yes, yes, it's correct.
Yeah, so our work here on climate change and climate action is very timely. So I'd like to remind also the partners that using our HSAB model, we can generate a 30-meter evapotranspiration data over a long time series for any region in the world. This is very handy in places where WP4 is not available. We can also do the biomass. So this opens the floor for future work. And using the work of Francesco and Yoni and colleagues in socioeconomic modeling and mathematical programming. So we will be integrating the biomass and the ET data with the socioeconomic data. The Spanish partners are running the socioeconomic model, and we run the biophysical model. And we hope to arrive at some fruitful research work, which should be, cutting-edge research in which we engage the advanced remote sensing tools with advanced mathematical programming in order to advise policy in water allocations. Of course, we can repeat this work or revive this work on other case studies in the region if helpful. And this is the end of my presentation. I hope I didn't take too much time. No, I didn't. That's good.
It's perfect. You even had one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity. Nina, do you want to open the floor to questions now, or shall we proceed with the presentations itself?
Yes, maybe one question of clarification, not fundamental 5-minute discussion, but maybe if someone has clarification questions. Maybe I can open the floor with 2 mini questions relative to the fact that you invite potato and I don't know, growers that use already irrigation. I was wondering if maybe other types of crops / growers are maybe interested in having access to water. Maybe it could be interesting to.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point, Nina.
And the other point was whether you were contemplating other policies than just water pricing. But as you went very fast, maybe you said it, but
yes, of course. We're just after what other policies related to water. So it could be water pricing is not necessarily an option now in the Bekaa, but maybe water allocations, maybe cropping patterns is important, and maybe shifting the irrigation from groundwater to surface water, which would make the irrigation less costly. So yeah, these are the types of policies we're also looking at. If you have other policies to suggest, that would be great. Also, we can integrate them possibly from your experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hadi,
Yes.
Did you finalize the deliverable 2.2?
It should be. It's a working document, but I mean, it should be finalized in the sense that we got all the input. I mean, all the input from the partners, or every partner submitted their input. Now, of course, this input can be updated.
Okay, so I thought you finalized it, so I would like to ask you for sharing a copy or the draft. Yeah.
Of the deliverable.
Yes.
Yeah, it should be on the Talanoa website.
Now?
Yes, I mean, Diony should have uploaded it. I'm not sure, but
okay.
On the drive, maybe.
Okay, I will have a look. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be on the shared drive. Of course, all the deliverables are submitted there, and if you want to update them, you will see the updated copy there.
Okay, I will have a look. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, if there is no other question, I suggest we go on with the Egyptian, and we thank Hadi. Thank you very much for the clear and very complete and dense presentation.
À vous.
So, Abdo, if you want, the floor is yours.
Hello? Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can hear you and we see your screen.
Okay. Okay. We will start with the workshop and the training course. Actually, our focus area is the Nile Delta. In the Nile Delta is rice in summer, and wheat and alfalfa in winter. So, but the problem of rice, we have already water shortage, and it is expected water availability in Egypt to be decreased due to the Ethiopian dam. So, to your knowledge, the rice crop is consuming more than 50% of the Egyptian water availability. We cultivate about 1.2 million fiddan. It is about half million hectare every year. It consumed most of the allocated water to agriculture in Egypt. So the most vulnerable crop and the area is rice and the Nile Delta respectively. So also, excuse me, we decided to have, in order to engage stakeholders, we planned to have a long workshop and invite more stakeholders and repeat the workshop in different places. So we have 5 days workshop. We raised several topics related to water availability, optimum agricultural water management, and irrigation systems. Also, we raised a very important topic which concerned with renewable energy applications for pumping water in the area to decrease the excuse me? Is it okay? Do you hear me or do you have a problem?
It's okay. We can
okay.
hear you.
Okay. Because I hear another sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could, the other
Okay.
one can shut them.
Okay. We invited 30 extension agents from each for one workshop. We invited 30 extension agents from a specific directorate. We got approval for 25 extension agent. We invited scientists working with agricultural water management and irrigation systems from Agricultural Research Center, National Water Research Center, and universities, in addition to agricultural engineers from the Ministry of Agriculture, to formulate the stakeholders panel, and we discussed the problem of water in Egypt as general, and specifically in the Nile Delta. We repeated this workshop 3 times. The first workshop held at the middle part of the Nile Delta. It's called El Gharbiya Governorate, and the second workshop held in the eastern part of the Nile Delta, and the third workshop is holding this week, and it will be adjourned after tomorrow at the northern part of the Nile Delta in Dumyat Governorate. So we discussed all the topic related water and energy. We have very interesting feedback from all involved stakeholders. So every year, due to the outcome of this style of holding the workshops, we will repeat it in the other governorates for the coming years of the project. So the form of holding workshops and involving stakeholders was very successful. So it will be repeated in the next year, in the coming year of the project. We for sure we send the invitation to the director of each directorate to ask him for sending and making a place for the holding is a workshop to be officially. We send the same letter to scientists, researchers, and engineers who involved in the workshop. So we have this successfully implemented. Yeah. The activities of the Egyptian lab concerned with modeling, we have 3 different models. Sorry, we have 4 different models. We and at the lab we are running a couple models, and which Alice added GIS model. The second model is salt mid model, but in the meantime we are providing data for HADI to implement water accounting or to run water accounting model at the Met Yazid command area. The Met Yazid command area is very big canal. It is going through the Nile Delta from south to north. Also, we are providing data for socioeconomic modeling to Francisco. So the first model we collected, then we selected the most vulnerable areas in the Nile Delta to water salinity and soil salinity. The most vulnerable area concerned with water salinity located at the far end of the Nile River at the northern part of the Nile Delta. It's called Sidi Salim area. Due to seawater intrusion, this area has a lot of water. The soil salinity and water availability decreased. Soil salinity increased and water availability decreased because it is at the far end of the Nile River, and the people there rely on using groundwater for irrigation, and due to seawater intrusion, the quality of water decreased in this area. So we working on this area to see what is the plan B for cropping pattern to match with the salinity of soil and the salinity of water. We are using for this purpose Alice Arid GIS model. We have we collected data for one season. Yes.
Abdo, excuse me. If you can finalize your speech in 1 minute, more or less,
okay,
it would be great. Thank you.
That's okay. We have 23 years of socioeconomic data to provide it to Francisco, and we are send it to him by the end of this week. Also, we provided the data needed for Hadi for running the water accounting in the Nile Delta. If we are missing some data, we will provide it as soon as possible. Also, we have one season data for running the salt mid model. We used this model for water management and irrigation system, the optimum irrigation system for salt tolerant wheat variety. It is new variety, and the salt tolerant new variety of rice. Yeah, this is what we have for the workshops and modeling activities in the Egyptian lab. Any question, please?
Thank you, Abdo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any question for Abdo?
If I may, how many different organizations did you manage to involve in the Egyptian lab? More or less, how many participants did you manage to involve for this many days workshop? I was just curious to see.
How many organizations?
And participants, more or less.
How many participants? As I said, we have 20 from universities. We have 20 scientists from universities, research institutes, and the Ministry of Agriculture, in addition to 25 extension agents. Yeah, in total around 45 participants. Yeah.
More or less equally divided between research and
yeah, and we have 3 workshops for this month. Yeah.
Thanks.
I had a question. I had a question on the repetition of workshops in different areas.
Yes.
Are all these areas within what you call your lab, or is it a wider scale that you address in?
No. In the focus area of the Egyptian lab. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so because it's really ambitious to address different areas, well, to replicate your workshop in different
Yes.
areas.
In the focus area called the Nile Delta, we have 9 governorates, and we will repeat the workshops in the 9 governorates. We started with 3. Next year we will have another 3, and the last year we will have the rest of the governorates. Yeah.
And for instance, do you, because so it's a lot of work, and
Yes.
in each one of the workshop, do you succeed going down the, let's say, the Talanoa method to discuss state of the art and all the points, because is really very ambitious. So you, for instance, the one that you already did
Yes.
you success to address with the stakeholders the different, there's 3 different points I think that we have in workshop 1, including scenarios and modeling, or, and do you success to take time to discuss it with all of them?
Yes, sure, yeah.
Okay.
The workshops was very productive to us. So not with the decision for repeating the workshops, it wasn't our decision because it is more money for us, but the officials asked us to repeat the workshops, yeah, in each governorate of the Nile Delta.
And you did not face strong conflicts, or because we all know that in your case it's quite touchy, this issue, it went smoothly?
For to your knowledge, it's for national activities, it is okay, and it is easier. For international collaboration and involving international scientists or something like that, to avoid any impacts on the negotiation.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it's very clear. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, Abed.
You're welcome. Hadi, call me Abdu. Hadi, Abdu.
I'm sorry.
Abed is different. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because here it says Abdrabbu.
Yes, Abdu.
Abdu Rabbu?
My nickname is Abdu.
Your nickname. Okay, Abdu.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. It is easier for foreigners to pronounce it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
About the workshop agenda, I know you presented it in Arabic, and I happen to know Arabic. So it's mainly focused on planting rice, fertilization, rice pests, how to irrigate the rice, what are the technologies for rice production, how can you do aquaculture in rice. So how is this workshop, like, how do you relate the agenda of the workshop to the Talanoa project? Just following up also on Nina's question. And
okay, Talanoa project, the overall goal of Talanoa project is developing the strategies and policies for climate change adaptation and mitigation for specifically related to water. Okay, so rice crop is as I mentioned in the introduction is the main crop consuming most of the water allocated to agriculture in Egypt. So saving water or rationalizing water in rice crop will create very big leap and very big impacts on the water availability in Egypt. So we not only presented rice, we talked about water availability in Egypt, we talked about climate change and the impacts of the risks of climate change on water availability in the Nile Delta. Also, we talked about soil, we talked about drainage systems, irrigation systems, which is split it to surface irrigation, hybrid irrigation, drip irrigation, and sprinkler irrigation systems. We talked about renewable energy applications for pumping water. We talked about reuse of low quality water in agriculture, in addition to topics related to improving rice cultivation. So we covered most available strategies for agriculture in general, and specifically in rice crop, because rice crop is the most crop consuming most of the water availability in Egypt. Yeah.
Okay, so are you proposing to the stakeholders a replacement crop for rice, or what is the proposal to reduce the water consumption in rice in Egypt?
We have several innovative technologies and strategies. The first strategy is using efficient irrigation systems. The second strategy is
on rice, right?
On rice, yes, on rice, yes.
How do you? What's the? I know that rice mainly works with flood irrigation. So what's the proposal that you're advancing? I'm interested from the technological point of view.
Yeah, I am the founder of hybrid irrigation system for cultivating rice in Egypt specifically, and in South Africa. In South Africa, I am the winner of the 2021 ICID Water Saving Award on this invention. So we introduced this invention to officials and to producers. We have results on applying this system in different places in the world, in Brazil, Mississippi Delta, China, India, South Sudan, Mali, and Egypt. So the outcomes of this technology for saving water in rice was very good. Also, we started to transfer in Egypt. We started to transfer or convert from surface irrigation to drip irrigation. So using also drip irrigation as a technology for cultivating rice is one of the options. In Egypt, we try to increase application efficiency in irrigation by reusing agricultural drainage water. We are using as a strategy for receiving water in rice. We using aquaponics in rice cultivation to increase the water productivity in rice production. We have new varieties for salt tolerant and drought resistant rice varieties. It is very good varieties. This year we have about 15 ton per hectare. This is the highest productivity in the world for the new varieties we developed in Egypt. Yeah. So we are proposing different strategies to be with the focus on rice, but these strategies will work well with other crops. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Abed. Thank you, Abdu.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's really interesting, and I just feel 10 minutes is far too short for each lab because we don't know each other well, and yeah. Our cases are all very interesting. So we know that today it's a bit frustrating and very short, and we will think together with Juni maybe how we can take more time to share things on labs, maybe with meetings that are only on one lab. I don't know, but okay. So Italian colleagues, I don't know who will speak, Paolo. Or
But it would be me, but as Yaro pointed out, is connected from Bonn, so I will present and Yaro may add his consideration if he feels to. So the Italian Water Lab, do you see the screen? Yeah, okay. So the Italian Water Lab, just an update on the advancement status of the lab. But before that, I would just a suggestion that came to my mind from the previous presentation. If eventually those who already had the workshop plan to make some minutes, some notes, it would be very interesting to share, just to have an overview of the strategies and the policies that you really pointed out with the users, to get inspiration eventually from that, if they plan to make some notes and minutes out of it, as I guess, not asking to make any extra works to the colleague, but in case it would be interesting to have a look at.
Yeah,
that's a suggestion. And then coming back to the Italian lab, as you probably know from the previous occasions we are focusing on the River District Authority of the Po River, particularly on the southern border in the Emilia-Romagna region, in the Apennines, in a small, relatively small upper catchment in the Secchio River, which is an Apennine river with a very variable hydrologic regime in Emilia-Romagna. This is the area we are working in the lab, and particularly we are working at the hydraulic node at the closure of this catchment, which is the Castellano-Ware, which is a big ware. On this ware, over this ware, there are many users. So there are many different users of water interested in exploiting the resource, and particularly facing problems and conflicts during the dry summer seasons, like unfortunately this the current summer, which is a very dry season. So the stakeholders we have involved so far, we more or less we have 13 people, 14 people involved from very different sectors. They come from the regional government, from the land reclamation authorities, which is let's say the most involved farmers association that work with the irrigation, private companies, particularly in the hydropower sectors, also the regional environmental agency, and a multi-utility company that uses water for industrial particular uses. So which has been the inspiration criteria to put together all these people that will participate to the workshop, the core, all the people that will participate to the next workshop, to bring together many different expertise. So researchers, actually researchers come from our side, particularly from CMCC, policymakers, the regional government, industry, so the users, those who own the nodes and the data, the environmental agency that can be of interest for the workshop topics, and all main economic relevant sector, agriculture, industry, hydropower as well. And then as a strategy, I guess, to enlarge eventually this panel for the workshop, to hook people that are in straight connection with each one of these stakeholders. This could be the strategy to enlarge eventually the number of people participating to the workshop that will be, as we have had the chance to discuss, will be delayed to after the summer. We have still to organize it with the scientific coordination of CMCC, but will be reasonably held by September. So after this crisis ends, after this summer break and the drought crisis ends, and with a set of objectives which has been discussed, preliminarily discussed with the colleagues of CMCC, and comes from the, let's say, from the topic that we have to match in this first science policy workshop. There will be roughly a first moment in which we are planning to set the scene, I mean, focusing on where we are, the state, no, particularly on water balance and exploitation for different usages, getting an overview of the possible policies. That's also why I was asking for example, for previous experiences of the coming from the other labs to get inspirations, and particularly showing off what can be also the opportunities, as Yaro pointed out in one of the previous meetings. We also have to hook them and keep them on board, showing what they can get back home from this participation, not only in terms of policy, but also in terms of opportunity, economic support, for example, for them coming from the EU mission on climate change. And what they can replicate eventually from this experience to other contexts, getting eventual economic support from them. Then a second part in which we will focus on the research gaps and challenges, particularly the known gaps on local knowledge and existing conflicts, challenges to solve in case, for example, as it's happening now, of critical periods. It would be a good starting point of discussion, the experience they are facing now, the consortia, the users, because there's an exceptional dry season ongoing, and during the summer they will face the strongest problem. They are still facing a severe shortage of water resources. Then we will move to what we plan to bring back home. I mean, there's designing the scenarios, planning credible climate and socioeconomic scenarios with them, and trying to pointing out the sustainable based determined contribution with their feedback. Also, if I may, trying to unveil the decision-making process for each of them, what they can actually, which kind of decision they can take in case of crisis. These are more or less the two point of discussion we preliminary envisage to discuss with them. I don't see if there is any comment by chat eventually, so please just let me know in case. Well, last but not least, where we are on the modeling framework, so the tools and the data specific for the lab, both water balance and socioeconomic part of the story. And if I may, as it is one of the requirements that came back from the previous meeting with the stakeholders, also with a look at the potential replicability of the approach. This is something that came clearly out, so we are not making a super precise analysis on one area only, but we are trying to set up a workflow that can be replicated and proposed in many other similar places. So these are more or less the tentative. This is more or less the tentative agenda for the workshop. And lastly, and on time, where we are on modeling, we are and in the data collection rounds. We are still discussing with the scientific partners which kind of modeling apply, but we have ended the modeling round. And to come back to one of the comments that I had made in the last meeting, we had the chance to have a look at this data. We are basically having this relatively coarse information on meteorological side, and eventually point information from ground stations, nothing more refined as the 30-meter analysis that Hadi was showing. But this is the core of information that we can use certainly for the water balance part of the story. We are handling the collection. Those data are already read and downloadable, and those are the ones that are less obvious to get, starting from the stakeholders discussion, the withdrawal. So this is something that is quite missing, and we are requesting the withdrawal data directly to the stakeholders and those that own the different withdrawals. This is more or less where we are with from the data collection point of view on the modeling side, but I see that also Yaro is ready to add this consideration of this quick overview. Please, Yaro.
Good morning, and apologize for the sound quality. I am connected from Bonn, from the UNFCCC climate conference, and in a few minutes I need to attend the meeting on Santiago network. Thank you very much also to Paolo for covering the pilot. It is very comprehensive. I just wanted to add that we are working at different levels. So Paolo presented the test side, the specific place where we want to demonstrate the power of the participatory processes and the full modeling network. We are in a close contact with the River Basin Authority, and previously they invited us to inform the whole water observatory that was mandated by Italian law. So it's a sort of drought steering committee that comes together every time when there is a serious reason for concern about the current water availability. And of course, what is emerging from our previous research is that the water availability is declining in the river basin, and what is really needed is to revise the whole water allocation system. So just to give you a taste of it, the current allocation basically exploit the average water resources by 140% or 150%. So there's a clear need for a water allocation reform in the river basin, but this is very complicated because the river basin is comprised by different regions, and the environmental rights are with the regions. So that means there's a negotiation process across the regions how to revise the allocation system and how to establish a just rules for everybody to exploit the water. So in addition to this test site that Paolo presented, we are working also on the scale of the river basin, and our research will inform the discussion and the debate about how the water should be reallocated across the participating regions and so on. And plus, on top of that, we are assisting several regions from the river basin on getting on board for the mission adaptation. So though this is a little bit slow, the opportunities unfolding, we are working on that, but basically that will become a third stream of our research that will fill the gap between the local test site as presented by Paolo, the river basin district, the drought steering committee level, and the regional discussion as the regions will engage in the mission on adaptation. Then the water allocation reform will become a most prominent aspect. And what we are particularly focusing with the regions on is the nature-based solution and the natural water retention. So how ecosystem services might help to increase the water availability or preserve the existing water for the different uses. So this is just, the architecture in addition to what Paolo said. But of course, our operational level is currently focusing on the test site with the multiple stakeholders, but this is not the only ambition that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paolo and Jaros. I was just wondering, maybe you said it, but the people that you convey to the first workshop, you already know them? This question is because I find, as we already discussed in the last meeting, that the agenda is very dense and with a lot of ambitions. So, but maybe if you already know the people with whom you are working, it's not a big issue.
Yes, those I was showing for the local test case, we already know, contacted and discussed it in our first meeting. Then Yaro want to add something on that.
No, we have been working with different regional and national authorities and local authorities and stakeholders for many, many years. So we have a very good working relationship with many of them.
And do you also have farmers or farmer representative in the list of people? Because I couldn't see them.
Yeah, the Land Reclamation Authority has those who directly provide water to farmers, so they are the link with for all the farmer world.
But their mission is more to protect the environment and to keep the
no, to provide water to farmers.
Okay,
provide water to farmers. Among other things, they provide water to farmers, so they are directly connected with the farmer world.
Okay, so their priority is that farmers have water.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other question for our Italian colleagues? No? Okay. Then
question,
thank you.
Nina, please.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question about the climate modeling for the future period, seeing that the CMCC, you are expert in this field. It means you already start the forecast or elaboration of future scenario for climate in terms of precipitation or temperature and other climate parameters.
I can take the question, Paolo, if you want.
Please, yeah, please.
So we have been, we are using a different scenarios, RCP 4.5, 8.5 from the CMIP 5 ensemble of simulations. We have already used these in the past. We have run the hydrological models together with the River Basin Authority to estimate the influence of water discharge. So the river discharge, how much water will be available in the river and to what extent the ecological flow will be satisfied and so on. So we are building up on a lot of pre-existing studies. But now, as we are moving to CMIP 6, we will repeat the exercise with the newest simulations. Plus, CMCC is one of the providers of seasonal forecast to the ECMWF, one of the 5 key centers that are developing seasonal. That means from 1 month up to 12 months. And in the past, we have looked into how this information can be exploited for irrigation or other uses of water in the river basin. So this is a work stream that we have developed in the context of other European funded projects in the past. So yes, we have the simulation. We are working on the update, and we are using a number of hydrological tools in order to project the water availability in the region. But most prominently, we are using the same modeling framework that the River Basin Authority has, so that we have aligned basically our assessment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if you agree, we turn to the French lab, I think, yes. I will share my screen. Okay. Can you see it? Maybe. Okay. Yes. Can you see it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry for the layout. So in the French case is concentrating on the Aude water catchment, which is south central France, on the Mediterranean shore. So I want to talk to you about what we are busy with now is the organization of our first workshop. And we plan to do other workshops in autumn to complement for the first objectives that we did in the project proposal. So at least a second workshop, and I think a second and a third workshop to address differently the strategies, and in another workshop address the modeling issue. So concerning the first workshop, it's planned next week for half a day. And the meeting will take place in Gruissan, which is located in the water lab, but we have the chance to have a large room from INRAE, so from my institution, with extra room so we can split up and work in small groups if needed. The objective of the workshop is to present the project. So you know, few people, well, some people, let's say a big half of the people already know about the TALANOA project because I had bilateral meetings with them, and the other, for instance, farmers do not know yet. So the idea is to validate the general approach, also the participative approach, explain them what INRAE, what the scientific community can bring to the topic, The objective is also that people get to know each other in the group and validate the working group. So validates the question of, are we missing any important people and stakeholders? The objective is also to share a common language, because in France, the water governance, as I think everywhere, has a specific vocabulary, which, for instance, for farmers is quite unknown. And this, we think, is important so that they understand where the water allocation rules and the evolutions that are coming up in the next years with the issue of over-allocation, as we heard from the Italian lab, to make a state of the art and to share it, and to agree on a statement of important problems, as well as factors of change to address the issue of scenarios, and to finalize a discussion on what stakeholders' expectations are on this topic. So the agenda is the following. So I marked with a little star the sessions that are interactive. So the idea is that we have almost half of the meetings that where people are active and they are working in small groups or in plenary, and that the time where we are presenting are kept quite short. So the idea is to welcome people to have a very flash presentation and an icebreaker. So an icebreaker is just a mini session so that people get to know each other. The idea of this icebreaker is to present the professions, the responsibility of each, because some don't know each other. Then we have a lunch that is not seated, a very quick meal. Then we will turn to a detailed presentation of the project. Then we will discuss how our stakeholder group will work. So let's say the governance of this group. For instance, when in a workshop we haven't reached a decision, then we can mobilize this smaller steering committee to advance and to take decisions. The fourth session will be a presentation from the Agricultural Chamber on the effects of climate change. Then we will discuss the state of the art on the water resource demand issue, which is the vision of what we call the water basin management plan. But this vision, we want to put it in a debate, because there is debate on this, let's say, water framework directive derived water governance. In the Mediterranean area, it poses a lot of questions, as you might experience in your own cases also, Italian and for the Italian and Spanish colleagues. So we want to have a time to discuss these assumptions. And then we want to have a time where people can really discuss and express their expectations from our approach and from the TALANOA project, so that we ensure that they are also having their own interest in coming back in these workshops. So here what we expect is, for instance, that they say, okay, we want to have climate scenarios and impact on yields or things like this. And the closing session will be around an individual assessment of the workshop, and we will ask them if they want to continue and how, giving them the choice between let's say an intensive or more informative way of cooperation. So stakeholders, the methods to do this group was, we had a list of initial stakeholders that are really classic. We already heard that, the water users, the state, the municipalities, and the agricultural technical institutions and more political representations. And then we had the snowball techniques to identify farmers or more specific water users, for instance, recreative users. We also have the hydraulic power representations. So if you are interested, we have a detailed list of stakeholders. We invited more than 80 people. Up to now, 15 people registered, plus different scientists with different disciplines from INRAE. And we suggest this steering committee of 5 institutions. Yeah, and just a last slide on modeling, but it's not really detailed. So in our case, we are a bit, I don't know, late, but at least it's not where we put our energy up to now. So Marta, who is in Sardinia, is working on water accounting. And we are just, we will start our work in hydro modeling and eco modeling this summer. Thank you very much. Yes, I had a last slide just to mention that we need to translate the website also, as we are allowed to with this necessity.
Thank you, Nina. Nice presentation.
Do you have some questions for me, my colleagues?
One question.
Yes.
About small groups, when you plan to discuss one topics, for example, who will manage this discussion? It means it will be between just stakeholders, or you plan to use some animators or key person to lead the discussion? Because
yeah. Okay, so I will be facilitating the let's say the plenary. And as we are a lot of colleagues, well, several colleagues, more than 5 colleagues to attend, what we plan to do is that at least one of us will go in each table, well, in the split up groups. But what we said is that we really want to intervene the minimum. So when we are in plenary, we will end up with a slide and a paper mentioning the 3 big questions that they are to discuss in these groups. And so they know what are the 3 questions. And the idea is that after a quarter of hour, they come back to the plenary and they summarize the ideas that they discussed within the table. So the idea of us going into the table is being as small as a mouse, just to listen, but not really to intervene in the discussion. And the role of the facilitator is to ensure that everyone in the group has the voice, so can say something, because this is often a problem also, that you have, for instance, some people that are head of, I don't know, a state institution and next to a farmer, so the farmer might not be comfortable with saying something. So the idea of the facilitator is really just to make it smooth and to take notes. But in theory, it's the one of the stakeholders that will summarize to the whole group the ideas that came up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if we don't have other questions, I will suggest that we turn to our Spanish colleagues.
Okay, now can you hear me? And can you see
yes,
my screen?
Yes,
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe you can just, yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I will present you what we are going to show to the stakeholder workshop. We will start showing what can we offer to them. This is the modeling framework we are using now at the USAL. We have this ensemble of 4 climate models and 8 hydrologic models that come from ICIMIP. And so combining all of them with the 3 climate change scenarios from the IPCC, RPC 2.66 and 8.5, we can.
Can you please increase the sound of the volume of?
No, maybe I only have to take the micro here. Now, can you hear me better?
Thank you.
Okay. So as you can see on the bottom, we can produce this large ensemble of results. There are 86 different scenarios we can model with this ensemble, and then we will combine them with the hydrology management model, AquaTool, the official software of the River Basin Authority, and with our microeconomic models and with the macro ones. So the idea is, as you see, we can divide in cells the study area. We have the hydrologic layer, the global climate model level, and then we can produce a grid and simulate it and have the results show. This is an example we have already run in an area bigger than our case study, the Sega River. Here we have 3 river basin, the Duero, the northern one, in the center, the Tagus, and the Guadalquivir, or the Guadiana, I think. And you can see that here we can simulate the discharge, and we have the results of all the ensemble in the gray area, and then we calculate the average, and we can also produce the average monthly anomalies in the grid in the study area. I'm in the study area. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it's almost in this area, so a part of this area. And so we will have our stakeholder workshop next September. It will be a 2-week workshop. We will have the public sector represented by these different members, the Duero River Basin Authority, the municipality, and the ministry. ITASIL is part of the regional authority of Castilla and Leon, and the SEDEX, that is a public authority that deal with engineering and evaluate a project for the state. We will have a private sector. FEDER Duero are the irrigation association. Agroseguro, a pool I'm sorry, they are a pool of I don't remember. They are firms and also an NGO, the WWF. You can see here all the stakeholders. Agroseguro, sorry, was a pool of agricultural insurance firm. These are the stakeholders that we have previously identified at the beginning of the project. We have finally to exclude the hydropower operator because we didn't reach a contract with them. And then we also included new stakeholders, the Salamanca municipality, other experts in remote sensing and water resource management of other university here in Spain, and all these private research and development areas, and also some other technical office of the Duero River Basin Authority. And the stakeholder workshop will be held here in Salamanca, in this beautiful place. It's a monastery of the Middle Age, and we hope also they will enjoy the stay here of our today workshop. And that's it. If you have some question, please.
Thank you very much, Francesco. So if I understand good, you plan to do a 2 days workshop, two
Yes.
full days? Okay.
Well, the second day will be, I think, only half day. So
Yeah,
it will be 1.5 day, but yeah.
Okay. So, and you already discussed this option with people, and they are okay to spend this time with
Yeah,
you?
we have invited more than 30 people, but I think we have the confirmation for at least 20 of them. I don't know if Diony, Hector, and Laura can confirm them.
I can step in now. Do you hear me?
Yes.
I escaped for 10 minutes from the meeting. No, so Francesco, I mean, put it very neatly. So we have all these stakeholders. We already contact them. We have the confirmation from many of them. So the idea we had the option of splitting the workshops, but instead of doing that, we went for quite the opposite. We have another project in the same area, which is focusing on remote on water theft, illegal water use, because it emerged as a big problem after we submitted TALANOA-WATER. So we have the option to organize a workshop in that one. So the idea is, instead of organizing separate workshops, to put all the resources together and organize a very big workshop in which we bring all the stakeholders to deal with all the relevant topics for the area. So we are going to have all of them together. The workshop is going to be pretty big. We expect 30 people taking part, 30 stakeholders plus people from the university. And yeah, we have much more resources, which I think is good to make the most out of it. But it's also riskier because we are putting everything in the same bag. Hopefully it works out. But if it doesn't work, then we'll have to wait for the next year. But I think we'll be fine because we know most of them. So, and we have been meeting with, especially with the River Basin Authority, which is going to play the key role in this first workshop, because it's mostly about designing the scenarios and policies. So the other stakeholders will be, I guess, more learning in this first round, and then they will start being more engaging. I mean, probably you don't know, but well, they just released the, well, probably you know, because it's everywhere in Europe, they're doing the same. They just released the River Basin Management Plan in the River Basin. It was a bit late. So yeah, we have to discuss that as well. So it's going to be quite interesting. And yeah, that's it. The structure, the agenda, we have an idea of having day one, having a more interactive discussion. Obviously, we are going to make presentations with the models that we have. And then we are going to have presentations from each of the partners trying to emulate the Talanoa dialogue, in which each one presents what they do, what are the problems, and giving them 10 minutes each, and then open discussion. And then in the second day, we plan to organize a serious game. So it's not compulsory for the first workshop, but we thought it was good to start making all the stakeholders, make them aware of how this goes, and then maybe for the next workshop it works better, or maybe it works well from the beginning. And then regarding the modeling, just the last thing I mentioned. So Francesco was showing the results from the hydrological modeling from ECME. So the real contribution we are making is the coupling between that modeling and the socioeconomic modeling. We couldn't show the results because that's ongoing right now. We will have the results ahead of the meeting, but well, it will be close. Hopefully we have them ahead of the meeting. So the main value added we are offering is the coupling of the ensemble results with the Aqua tool, using different setups, 4 different setups of the Aqua tool model. So the Aqua tool model basically is reproducing what the River Basin Plan is saying in terms of new infrastructures, etc., etc. So we are going to reproduce what the River Basin Plan is saying, plus 2 or 3 additional scenarios, and then we are going to assess the economic impact using microeconomic and macroeconomic modeling. For the micro modeling, we are going to have the results ahead of the workshop. I don't think we're going to have them for the macroeconomic modeling, but I guess it's fine because that's for second year too. And yeah, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Diony. Just out of curiosity, the serious game, it's a generic serious game, or it's a one that is that has been already tailored to the specific case?
No, it's we still have to design. We are working with an expert we have at the university on serious gaming. No, it's going to be tailored. The thing we have to decide is whether it's going to be a role play in which each one adopts her role in real life, or trying to align it with the Talanoa approach and make it more empathic and make each person adopt a different role so that they learn from each other. But probably for the first one, we are going to make it simple and each one plays his own or her own role, because otherwise it may be too complicated.
But so you are already working on the development of this game?
Yeah, so the idea is to use the results that Francesco showed you, coupled with the socioeconomic modeling, and show them throughout time what's going to happen with the river basin plan. So what are the expectations on the river basin plan, the new infrastructures that have been added, if they think that other infrastructures could work better, and then see if with the new or different infrastructures the situation is different. What are there's a lot of uncertainty because you have many different models. So yeah, that's part of the gaming. And well, let's see. We'll let you know how it goes after the experience.
Okay. Thank you very much, Francesco and Diony. Then I think it's the turn of the Tunisian colleagues. Yeah, Issam.
My screen? You see my screen?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Then we'll start. Just a reminder about the study area. Look, we are in South Tunisia. We have here the Jerba Islands, and you have here the Medellin city. Okay. More accurate image. Then we have a main river with the water treatment plant that release its water in the main river that recharge an aquifer, use it for irrigation. This is an overview of the system. About the progress of the implementation, in terms of stakeholder engagement, we already sent a lot of letters for the main stakeholders in early 2021. And we performed a lot of B2B meetings to convince people to join our stakeholder engagement platform, a stakeholder platform. Then we organized last week in Medellin a large meeting with the most identified stakeholders. And we presented the project and mainly the Talanoa dialogue, how it is organized and what tools we'll use, okay? And we agreed to organize a second large meeting in July 20, okay, to prepare the first science policy workshops. Okay, in terms of data collection, okay, we are progressing in the accounting exercise for the study area, okay? And we already collected most of the socioeconomic and the microeconomic data, and we are just making them in the form requested by the team in the University of Salamanca to proceed with the microeconomic modeling. Okay. In terms of hydrology, we already updated the WP Modflow DSS developed previous years for the region, and we make a small presentation for the stakeholder, and they really like the outputs of the model or the tool. In terms of work package 4, the task 4.2, first science policy workshop, it is already planned for the 7-8 September 2020. It will be held in the region. Okay. The first meeting of last week was spread in the social media of the Regional Administration of Agriculture in Medellin. We start our dissemination activities. The stakeholder that joined the last meeting were almost 15. Most of the public administration are there. Farmer associations. There is a private sector represented by agro lab and also industrial companies. The first discussion leads to some main problems in the regions, and we identified at least 3 main subjects. Currently, the region suffering from water shortage in terms of drinking water, and most of the stakeholders agreed to discuss this issue. And then we have the touristic area of Jerba, Zerzis, and Medine is almost 70% of the touristic capacity of all Tunisia. And then it consumes a lot of drinking water. Then this is the second subject. And the third one is industrial water use in the region. And then for the Science Policy Workshop, we agreed to organize the first one, or the preparatory workshop in the Medine city, in a hotel in the city with many working groups for about 50 stakeholders that represent all the administrative area of the Medine. And then the objective will be to identify and classify the problems and the challenges, and then to discuss or present and discuss the modeling framework we prepared, mainly the weak mode flow, DSS, and then the microeconomic models. And also to present and discuss in July the second or the first science policy workshops that will be organized in September, to agree on the agenda and how it will be organized. The second workshop, it will be planned in Zerzis. It's a touristic area where there's a lot of hotels, the bigger consumer of drinking water and the water resources of the region. Also, in the hotel will offer many working groups for working groups. 7 and 8 of September. Okay, you are invited, and if you want to join, you can just reserve your places, and we'll make all the arrangement for you. The objective of this science policy workshop, as written in our reference documents, is to discuss the future scenarios. You will see for climatic, we'll use models, but there is a lot of other management scenario, socioeconomic scenario, industrial scenario, and even touristic scenarios, to discuss the natural-based solution to make some water balances or to redress the water balance in the area, and also to introduce the concept and to discuss the transformational adaptation strategy, how it is and what does it mean, to prepare the second science policy workshop. For the first science policy workshop in details, we plan to introduce in the morning of the first day, or the only one day, 3 hours about the problems and the challenges related to water scarcity. We plan to introduce with one general presentation the natural and socioeconomic context with the different main administration, agriculture, economy, environment, and so. And then we split the group in 3 main working groups, one for municipal and industrial water, with the animator or reporter or someone that can guide the discussion to get the outputs of the workshops. The second group is about the agriculture and water. And there is a demand expressed in the first meeting of last week. Some group would like to discuss only agriculture and water. And they don't like to, for example, be in the municipal or touristic water because of their expertise, or they don't have the, let's say, the expertise to have added value on this subject. And the last one is the tourism, water, because in the region there is a lot of desalination plants, and now we start the seawater desalination only for touristic units, and they would like to discuss this issue in terms of environment and economic. Is it useful? Is it sustainable? And so. And then in the second part of the day, the afternoon, for 1.5 hours, we would like to discuss the modeling framework, with flow, and the socio-economic modeling. And the working groups will try, the same ones, will try to identify the key performance indicators to evaluate strategy later. And we plan to make some discussion here to prepare the second science policy workshop. In the end of the day, for 1 hour only, a tentative agenda of the science policy workshop will be presented, discussed with the stakeholders, and if there is an opinion to change, we can make some modification to edit the last or final agenda, we hope in July 20. Okay. For the main stakeholder workshop, 7 and 8 September 2022, for 2 days, and it will be in a hotel in the region. The first day we'll try to discuss the future scenario and discuss the based and determined contributions. And the second day only for transformational adaptation strategies. And you can see it will be introductive presentation just to show the concept and the methodology on how to identify scenarios. And then working groups with animator or coordinator or rapporteur will have a lot of time to discuss this subject, the future scenarios. And we talk here not only climatic, because there is a lot of other kind of scenario for the future, mainly how to change relationship between society and water. The second day to discuss the basin determined contributions, also concept and methodology presentation to explain for people, and then we split stakeholder in 3 groups to take their liberty to discuss what they want and propose by the end some idea to be later as adaptation strategies. Okay, and for the second day we will present the concept and the methodology how to identify these strategies for the futures, and this will be done through brainstorming of the idea with experienced animators. We identify some socioeconomic person in the region from the ARID Institute in Medellin, and they will lead this discussion because they are more in contact with these stakeholders. Okay, we identify last week also in meeting the main stakeholder of all the governorate of Medellin, and as I say, we identify from each of the sub-governorate representative from the society, from the administration, from the media, from even religious peoples to be in the discussion and to not, let's say, lose the information in small groups. Okay. For modeling status, and we have already the framework of WP4 flow, and we have here the main aquifer of the region used for drinking water, because drinking water represent almost 98% of the water resources in the region. It means we use a lot of drinking water compared to agriculture. And then you can see here even desalination plant and the island of Jerba and Zarzis and all the cities that use water from this aquifer. In addition, we will make this week's update to add all the small aquifers used for irrigation with their water demands. Okay, we already identified the main precipitation mainly change over time for all the mountains. And then we try to calibrate in early this year in February, March, we calibrated our modeling framework with ModFlow compared to main piezometric observation in the region. Okay, we have here 2 examples. And we tested our framework, and it was efficient in making some forecasts for water storage in aquifers for many climatic scenarios. And in March 2022, we already published this paper, Assessment of Climate Change Impact of the Zescotin Aquifer. This is a main aquifer used for all what is drinking water, industry, and touristic, using the WP ModFlow DSS. And this paper will be sent to Johnny to be shared for all people who want to read and see in detail what is this modeling framework. Okay. This is my presentation, and as a conclusion, we can say that we identified most of the actors that can have a role in the dialogue, and we already prepared modeling framework in terms of hydrology, and we hope enriching this modeling framework with the microeconomic models with Francisco and the team. And our main problem is microeconomic data for the main crops, simply because we are surprised that the area used for crops is not so big, and the information is not easy to collect. Hopefully, we have everything now, and we just put them in a format and will be sent to the team of the microeconomic modeling by this week. Okay. Thank you for your attention, and I'm ready for any question.
Thank you, Issam. Thank you very much. Do we have one very quick question, or because I really need to leave in 2 minutes?
Yeah,
but if you have one quick question, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a really quick clarification, Issam, if you may. You said that 98% of the water is used for drinking water from that aquifer or for all the study area?
For the governorate of Medellin, our study area, we have only 500 hectares of irrigated agriculture. In the other side, we have 70% of the touristic capacity of Tunisia that use water from this aquifer. And last year, starting from 2013, we use desalination plants. You can see here. Okay. It means most of water is for drinking.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But so maybe it might not be. Do you think it's still interesting to develop a socioeconomic model that represents farming practices? Well, land allocation and water practices? Yeah,
because there is an economy, and there is some small city are living from agriculture activities, and they are well identified, and they have a pollution problem coming from the city, from the water use. And then this is a very interesting problem, and the dialogue round will be very interesting.
Okay. Thank you, Issam.
Thank you.
I can just try a few words to build on what has been said and the ideas for the future. My first impression, general impression on what we heard is that there have been a lot of work in all of the labs, and that it's a bit frustrating to go so quickly around the stakes of each and the characteristics of each, because we see that each lab is obviously very specific. So maybe we need to think of how having more time to share the stakes of our researchers in our labs. So this is the first point we will think about. also, as Paolo suggested, to share our minutes for the existing workshops. So maybe we can imagine having detailed minutes in our languages, because they are necessary for our stakeholders and for the quality of our participative approach. Then maybe we could imagine having quick minutes in English that we will valorize also in the deliverables. And I think they are really interesting, as Paolo suggested. Also, I already put it in the chat, but if you can send me your presentation and ensure that the key information we asked you are there and are translated in English, so we know. And I also noted, sorry, it's already a bit mixed, but the idea of thinking about the opportunities for the stakeholders and addressing the question, at least for the European countries, of what the EU mission can bring to our labs and to our regions. And also an idea from Paolo as the idea of replicability of what we are doing, I think is really interesting, and we could build on that in Talanoa. I don't know, Issam, if you have some words.
Just 2 points to underline. The first one is the climatic scenario. If we can standardize the approach for all the water labs, it means if we can use the global models to forecast for 20 or 30 years for the future, using the same approach, it will be very nice for all labs. The second point is how to deal with this focus groups or small groups that we'll discuss, how this will be done and what we want to ask from them, because our risk is to get a discussion in all direction and how to collect the information later. It means if we dedicate for discussion groups, rapporteurs, they have to be identified from the beginning of the workshop, and these rapporteurs have to meet or get a document on how to proceed. For our labs, we have a high risk to not get the clear or the necessary results. It means for that we identified some people to be the rapporteurs or animators. I don't know for the other labs. These 2 points to take care of them.
Okay. Yeah, I think they are important points. Yeah, we can share our thoughts on that. Okay. Diony, do you want to say a word? Or maybe he cannot speak. Okay. So otherwise, we will say thank you to you all to stick to the time, more or less. And so we will do minutes and come back to you with these minutes. And yeah, I think there is really, well, at least for me, a need to take more time and to get into the details of each workshop, of each lab, sorry. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.